Picture this. You wake up one morning, drop your kids off at school like any other day, and by lunchtime, the ground beneath an entire Los Angeles neighborhood has swallowed you whole. Not into darkness, not into death, but into a world that shouldn't exist anymore. A primeval wilderness crawling with predators that vanished from Earth 10,000 years ago. That is the premise of NBC's La Brea, and today, we're diving deep into Season 1, Episode 3, titled The Hunt. This is where the show stops teasing its central mystery and starts confirming it out loud. This is where hunger becomes a real threat, where an old betrayal finally claws its way to the surface, and where a rescue mission from the modern world takes its first, most dangerous leap into the unknown. Before we go further, this breakdown covers the entire episode from start to finish, so consider this your spoiler warning. If you're all caught up, let's get into it. La Brea, an American science fiction drama series created by David Appelbaum. It premiered on NBC on September 28, 2021, and ran for 3 seasons and 30 episodes before concluding on February 13, 2024. The show is produced by Keshet Studios and Universal Television, filmed largely in Melbourne, Australia, standing in for both modern Los Angeles and the prehistoric wilderness. The premise: a massive sinkhole rips open at the Los Angeles La Brea tar pits, dragging hundreds of people, cars, and chunks of the city into what turns out to be a mysterious primeval land. Some fall through into that ancient world, others are left behind on the surface, desperate to understand what just happened and how to bring their loved ones home. As the seasons progress, the show reveals this isn't simple time travel, it's connected to a secretive, futuristic research initiative, though that larger mythology hadn't been confirmed yet at this early point in Season 1. The series stars Natalie Zia as Eve Harris, Owen Mackin as Gavin Harris, Jack Martin as Josh Harris, Zyra Goretsky as Izzy Harris, Chico Conquo as Ty Coleman, Nicholas Gonzalez as Levi Delgado, John Seda as Dr. Sam Velez, Lily Santiago as Riley Velez, Rowan Merchandani as Scott, Karina Logg as Mary Beth, and Josh McKenzie as Lucas, among others. La Brea currently holds an IMDb audience rating in the range of roughly 6 out of 10, reflecting a fairly divided critical reception, though it built a loyal fanbase over its run. By the time Episode 3 begins, the survivors trapped in the primeval world are no longer in denial about their situation, they're in survival mode. Food is running low, tensions inside the makeshift camp are boiling over, and dangerous prehistoric wildlife keeps reminding everyone just how out of their depth they are. Meanwhile, back on the surface, the US government is assembling a plan to actually fly someone into the sinkhole itself, and the man chosen for that mission has a complicated, painful history with the Harris family that's about to come pouring out. This episode is really built around 3 intertwining threads: the physical hunt for food and survival in the past, the emotional hunt for buried truths between the characters, and the literal hunt for a way to reach the people trapped below. Down in 10,000 BC, the group of survivors has been rationing what little food they salvaged since the sinkhole first pulled them under. That rationing system starts to collapse. A police officer among the survivors has taken it upon himself to manage the food distribution, and predictably, hungry, frightened people don't respond well to being told to wait their turn. A shoving match erupts in the middle of camp as everyone jostles for their share. Then, in one of the episode's most memorable beats, the chaos gets interrupted by something even more chaotic. A massive, extinct ground sloth wanders directly into camp. Everyone scatters. In the scramble, the officer drops the food he was so carefully guarding, including a candy bar that becomes a strangely poignant symbol of how quickly modern comforts are slipping away from these people. The sloth, uninterested in the panic it's caused, casually devours much of what's left of their supplies. It's a scene that's part terrifying, part darkly comic, and it underlines the show's central tension. These are ordinary people from a world of grocery stores and gas stations, dropped into a food chain that has zero patience for them. The sloth encounter becomes the final piece of proof the group needs. Scott, one of the more scientifically minded survivors, uses the moment to make his case plainly to the camp. Ground sloths of this size went extinct roughly 10,000 years ago. There's only one explanation for seeing one alive and well. They haven't just fallen into some hidden cave system or remote wilderness. They've been thrown backward in time to around 10,000 BC. Eve backs him up, adding her own piece of evidence. While she was out searching for a missing ambulance earlier, she recognized the shape of the Hollywood Hills in the distance, just without any of the buildings, roads, or landmarks that should be there. That confirmation lands hard on the group. This isn't a rescue and wait situation. If they want to survive, they need to start thinking like people who live in the actual Ice Age, not like tourists waiting for help. Eve makes the group's mission statement clear going forward. If they intend to survive out here, they must start actively hunting for food, rather than just scavenging whatever they stumble across. With that grim reality settling in, Eve and Ty head out from camp together to hunt and forage. Ty, a former Air Force parachuteman, has been one of the more steady, capable presences in the group since the sinkhole first hit, and Eve, a fiercely protective mother searching for her missing daughter Izzy, has leaned on his skills more than once already. The pair managed to catch a rabbit, a small but meaningful win given how desperate the food situation has become. But their luck turns fast. They spot a bear in the wilderness and, given the obvious danger, make a run for cover, ducking into a nearby cave system for safety. Unfortunately, the cave doesn't turn out to be the safe haven they hoped for. The bear ends up blocking the only visible entrance, effectively trapping Eve and Ty inside with no clear way out. Inside the cave, Eve and Ty aren't alone. They run into Lucas and his mother, Mary Beth, two characters whose relationship has been quietly fractured since before the sinkhole ever opened. Mary Beth had spent episodes desperately searching for her son, and their reunion wasn't the warm moment she'd hoped for. Lucas has made it clear he's not thrilled to have her back in his life, a strain rooted in a painful family history involving his father's death, which is only hinted at here rather than fully explained, with the main entrance sealed off by the bear. The foursome has to work together to find another way out. Despite the friction between mother and son, they eventually discover a small underground pool. Ty, drawing on his training and nerve, volunteers to dive in first to check whether it leads anywhere. He resurfaces with good news. There's a way out on the other side. The group swims through, and what they find waiting for them at the exit is a genuinely chilling gut punch of a moment. A human skeleton, dressed in the remains of a modern-day college sweatshirt, with a gun resting beside it. It's a silent, grim implication that someone else fell into this same world before them, and that this person's story ended in isolation and hopelessness. It's one of the show's clearest visual reminders that the Harris family and their fellow survivors are not the first people this strange land has swallowed. Shaken but not defeated, the group gathers up backpacks full of edible chicken of the woods mushrooms they find nearby and heads back toward camp. But notably, none of them mention the skeleton to the others. That secret stays buried, at least for now. While all of this unfolds in the past, the story cuts back to present-day Los Angeles, where government agencies are racing to figure out how to reach the people trapped inside the sinkhole. The plan that emerges: send a pilot flying directly into the hole itself. The man brought in for the job is Levi Delgado, an Air Force pilot with Homeland Security connections. But Levi isn't just any recruit. He's revealed to be Gavin Harris's former best friend from their time together in the military, someone Gavin hasn't spoken to in a long time. Levi's return forces Gavin to confront a painful chapter from his own past. We get flashbacks that fill in why the friendship ended in the first place. Levi had once revealed something to a drunken, struggling Gavin, who was dealing with visions and alcoholism at the time, and Gavin's reaction to that revelation was explosive. That falling out was part of why Levi ended up transferring to Germany, putting an ocean and years of silence between the two men. Now, face to face again for the first time since then, Levi finally tells Gavin the full truth. During that dark period in Gavin's life, Levi and Eve had an affair. It's the missing piece that explains years of tension inside the Harris family and reframes some of what we've already seen of Gavin and Eve's strained marriage. Despite the weight of that confession, the two men manage to reconcile, at least enough to move forward. Levi still agrees to fly the rescue mission into the sinkhole, understanding exactly what's at stake for Gavin's family on the other side. Interwoven throughout the episode are flashbacks centered on Levi, filling in emotional context from before the sinkhole ever opened. We see glimpses of the aftermath of Izzy's accident, the injury that left her needing crutches and that has clearly haunted Eve with guilt ever since, as well as further glimpses into how fragile Gavin and Eve's marriage had become in that period. In the present, Levi tells Gavin directly that he regrets not believing him back then, seemingly referring to Gavin's unsettling visions, which the audience knows by this point are tied to something much larger than ordinary trauma. This small admission works as quiet foreshadowing, hinting that Gavin's strange premonitions may end up meaning a lot more than anyone on the surface currently realizes. Back in camp, Riley, Sam's daughter, checks in on her father, who is still badly injured after his fall in a previous episode and unable to feel his legs. It's revealed that Riley, despite having once been on a pre-med track before stepping away from that path, is now the only person qualified enough to attempt to help him. Sam needs a procedure to relieve pressure on his spine, and with no proper medical supplies or anesthetics available, Scott suggests using heroin that had been found in Lucas's car as an impromptu sedative. Riley is understandably hesitant about the plan, but with no better option and her father vouching for it, they move forward, and the procedure doesn't go smoothly, with Sam becoming disoriented from the drug mid-treatment. Elsewhere, Eve makes a point of checking in on Sam as well, though Riley remains visibly cold toward her, still holding onto anger from unresolved conflict between the two families. Riley and Josh, however, share a quieter, gentler moment together as they wait in the food line, a small character beat that continues to build their bond amid the surrounding chaos. What makes the hunt stand out structurally is how it uses its two separate timelines, the past and the present, to mirror each other emotionally. In the primeval world, Eve is forced to confront just how deeply her guilt over Izzy's accident runs, replaying the same memories over and over. On the surface, we finally learn exactly why that guilt cuts so deep. Eve's affair with Levi, and the marital damage it caused, ties directly back to the emotional wreckage the Harris family was already carrying before the sinkhole ever opened. It becomes clear that Eve's overprotectiveness toward her son Josh throughout the ordeal isn't just about basic survival instinct. It's about her desperately trying to prove to herself that she can still be the mother she once doubted she was, especially after admitting to Ty earlier in the season that she felt like she'd failed as a parent. Eve Harris, the estranged wife of Gavin and mother to Izzy and Josh. Eve is protective to a fault, driven by guilt over Izzy's accident and by the revelation of her past affair with Levi. In this episode, she becomes one of the first to publicly accept the reality of their situation and pushes the group toward active survival instead of passive waiting. Gavin Harris, Eve's estranged husband, a man plagued by mysterious visions that the show has been slowly hinting are more than psychological. This episode forces him to reopen old wounds with his former best friend Levi, confronting both the affair and his own past struggles with alcohol. And Ty Coleman, a former Air Force parascuman among the fallen survivors, capable, level-headed, and quick to act under pressure. Ty is Eve's main partner in this episode's foraging expedition and the one who braves the underwater passage to find their way out of the cave. Levi Delgado, an Air Force pilot recruited by Homeland Security for the sinkhole rescue mission, and Gavin's former best friend from their military days. His return exposes the affair with Eve and the falling out it caused, but also shows a man willing to risk his life to fix what he sees as his own mistakes. Sam Velez, a survivor badly injured after a fall in a previous episode. In this episode, he's left unable to feel his legs, forcing a dangerous impromptu medical procedure performed by his own daughter. Riley Velez, Sam's daughter. Once on a pre-med path before life took her elsewhere, she's thrust into the role of makeshift doctor for her injured father, all while nursing quiet resentment toward Eve over unresolved tension between their families. Lucas, Mary Beth's estranged son, whose reunion with his mother in the previous episode was cold rather than joyful. Their fractured relationship, tied to painful history involving his father, continues to simmer even as the two are forced to cooperate to survive the cave. Mary Beth, Lucas's mother, desperate to reconnect with her son despite the wall he's built between them. Her role in this episode centers on that strained dynamic playing out under pressure. Scott, one of the more analytically minded survivors. Scott is the one who lays out the scientific case that the ground sloth proves they've traveled back to 10,000 BC. He's also the one who proposes using heroin as an emergency sedative for Sam's procedure. Josh Harris, Eve's teenage son, still recovering from illness in this stretch of episodes. His quiet, growing connection with Riley continues here. The biggest revelation of this episode, in a monster or a time jump, it's a piece of very human history. The confirmation that Levi and Eve had an affair during Gavin's darkest period reframes a lot of the tension we've already seen simmering inside the Harris family, and it recontextualizes Eve's guilt, her protectiveness over her kids, and the visible distance between her and Gavin. The second major twist is more environmental than emotional, the discovery of the skeleton in the cave. It's the show's first clear, undeniable piece of evidence that other people have fallen into this primeval world before the current group of survivors, and that at least one of them didn't survive the isolation. It's a small scene, but it plants a seed of dread that pays off in later episodes as the mythology around the sinkhole and its portals deepens. The episode closes with its two timelines pointed in the same direction, forward motion. Despite the pain along the way, in the past, the survivors walk away from the cave with a small win, food in the form of foraged mushrooms, but also a secret they choose not to share, the skeleton none of them mention once they're back at camp. It's a quiet character choice that says a lot. Even in a world of dinosaurs and giant sloths, these people are still capable of protecting each other from unnecessary fear, or perhaps protecting themselves from processing what they saw on the surface. The reconciliation between Gavin and Levi, however uneasy, sets the rescue mission into motion. Levi agrees to fly into the sinkhole despite everything that's just been laid bare between them, prioritizing the lives at stake over his own guilt or discomfort. That decision sets up the next episode's central question: what happens when Levi actually reaches the hole, and does he make it through in one piece? Taken together, the ending reinforces the show's overarching theme at this stage of the season, that survival, whether physical or emotional, requires people to move forward even when the truth hurts. The candy bar drop during the sloth chaos is a small but effective visual metaphor, a piece of ordinary modern comfort, lost instantly to a creature representing the ancient world they didn't choose to enter. It's the kind of detail that rewards viewers paying close attention to the show's visual storytelling. The skeleton in the sweatshirt is worth highlighting again here, specifically as an Easter egg for attentive viewers. It's an early, unspoken confirmation that this primeval land has claimed people before, tying into the show's slowly unfolding mystery about who else has fallen through and when. The show would go on to expand heavily on the idea of other groups and other time periods being connected to the same phenomenon, so this scene functions as an early breadcrumb. This episode directly follows up on Izzy's accident, which had already been established as a source of deep guilt for Eve throughout the first 2 episodes, and it finally gives audiences the emotional backstory, the affair with Levi, that explains why that guilt runs so much deeper than a simple accident would suggest. It also continues Mary Beth and Lucas's estranged relationship, first shown falling flat in episode 2, and Sam's declining physical condition, first triggered by his fall earlier in the season. Meanwhile, Levi's recruitment for the rescue mission plants the seed for a major event still to come, his attempt to fly directly into the sinkhole, which carries consequences that ripple through the rest of the season. La Brea draws its title and premise from the real La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles, a genuine paleontological site famous for preserving Ice Age fossils, which gives the show's prehistoric setting a grounded, real-world anchor even as the plot itself is fictional. The series was filmed primarily in Melbourne, Australia, standing in for both the modern Los Angeles scenes and the sprawling, dangerous prehistoric wilderness, a detail that speaks to the scale of production required to pull off both halves of the show's dual timelines. Convincingly, the show ran for 3 seasons and 30 episodes total before concluding in February 2024, and all 3 seasons eventually became available for streaming as well, expanding its audience beyond the original NBC broadcast. The Hunt is the episode where La Brea fully commits to its premise. No more hedging. No more characters wondering if they're dreaming. The ground sloth, the recognizable Hollywood Hills, and Scott's blunt explanation make it official. These people are stranded in 10,000 BC, and survival now depends on how. Well they can adapt. At the same time, the episode does something just as important on the emotional side, finally cracking open the true reason behind Eve and Gavin's fractured marriage. It's a strong example of how this show tries to balance monster of the week survival thrills with old-fashioned family drama, and whether or not that balance always works for every viewer. This episode is a clear turning point for both timelines. If you enjoyed this deep dive into La Brea Season 1, Episode 3, let us know your thoughts, theories, or favorite moments from the episode down in the comments below. Be sure to like this video if you want more breakdowns like this one, and subscribe to Screen Central for more web series, TV series, and movie breakdowns, ending explained videos, and detailed episode analyses. Turn on notifications so you never miss an upload when the next